Hey everyone, Dockwell here, and welcome to another one of my Dota 2 hero guides. Today we're going to be taking a look at Faceless Void. So Void is a carry hero, pretty much only a carry hero. He used to be played off lane, 5-6 years ago, TI5 era, Universe played this hero all the time, but he's changed over the years, so he's not really an off lane hero anymore. We're just going to focus on the carry version of Faceless Void. So how do you think about this hero as a carry? Well, most people would say, and the first thing that comes to mind is his ultimate. Chronosphere is one of the best ultimates in the game. It's like an Enigma black hole. It's something you can never count out. It catches everybody in a giant AoE. You can kill the carry full to zero, and there's almost nothing they can do. But although that's true, and he does scale into the late game really well with that ultimate, it's not as true as it used to be because, there's things like Aeon Disc, there's more abilities and all this kind of stuff, talents and all these things that either help people survive in the chrono or disable him while he's in the chrono trying to kill people. So it's just one of those things that maybe, 5 years ago it was the best spell in the game, but now it's not as good as it used to be. So, although he scales really well into the late game, although it's a very, very good late game hero, you don't want to just passively farm with this hero. You don't want to play it like a Medusa. You want to get involved early because you can be very strong with one or two items. You want to use your Chronosphere off cooldown to kill people, to secure map control, whatever it is, all those kinds of things. Farm like you normally do with a carry, but use, your ultimate. Use your strength, use your ability to man up on people early with only one item, because a lot of times you're actually stronger than many, many carries in the early game with only like one item. And so if you meet a carry one-on-one in a lane, you can usually fight a lot of different carries 1v1. So just keep that in mind. The other thing to keep in mind about this hero is because Chrono isn't the thing that it used to be, it's not like you can reliably kill everybody full to zero, then you want to make sure that you're playing this hero in a game where you can kill people without committing chrono. So if you're in a game where you just feel like you can't jump in and kill people, like if you jumped in, you're just instantly going to die for whatever reason, whatever the matchup is, whatever heroes you have on your team or they have on their team, it just doesn't feel good to jump in without committing chrono. That's a bad Void game. The best Void games are games where you can kill people, you can man up on people, you can go in without actually having to commit your Chronosphere, because sometimes the threat of the chrono is better than actually committing it in games like that. So that is when Void can feel really, really good. You don't even have to commit Chronosphere and you can just run in and kill people. Now, obviously, that has a lot to do with stuns and things like that. So keep that in mind. The more stuns the enemy have, especially that stuns that go through BKB, the worse it is for you. So that's pretty much how to think about Void overall. Now, what about his laning stage? His laning stage is decent. He can have a good time, a bad time. It just depends. It's a lot about skill, matchups, those kinds of things. He doesn't have a good farming steroid. He does farm pretty well with his time lock. It does good damage, but he needs usually lifesteal, attack speed, something like that to help him farm. So he's not the best farmer in the world, but he farms decently. Like I said, he's very strong manning up on people. So you do want to lane usually hit lane creeps with this hero because he can man up 1v1 against the carry. He can also split push decently because of his mobility. And then as you build him later into the game, what do you focus on? Well, you focus on a few things. One, survivability, like I talked about, so that you are able to jump in and kill people without chrono. That means BKB, Manta, maybe a Linken's, whatever it is that you need for that game. So survivability in that way. Also with HP. HP is very, very good to make sure you don't get bursted down. And then lastly, attack speed. This hero scales incredibly well with attack speed because of his built-in damage with time lock. And that obviously allows you to kill people full to zero during the duration of chrono, all of that kind of stuff. And also, you can get to a point with a lot of attack speed where you almost like permabash them 1v1. So you man up on people really, really good. Really, really well with this hero. So that's Void. That's how to think about him in general. Now let's jump in and take a look at his abilities and see how he plays. Now that we understand Void in general, we can take a look at his abilities and see how he's able to be that great late game carry like I talked about, but also able to man up on people and do a ton of damage with his abilities. So first, we're going to take a look at Time Walk. So Time Walk is pretty simple. It's his mobility spell. He pretty much jumps to anywhere in that AoE. Like I showed you, you highlight it, there's an AoE, and you just jump there. Now, unlike AM or QoP, it's pretty easy to tell where he's going. So it's not really like a, thing where you can trick people, but you can just jump around. It's pretty good. You can jump over cliffs like this and everything. So he can get away pretty easily with this, jump on top of people, those kinds of things. Now, the other thing about this spell is it's also a very, very good survivability spell outside of just the innate mobility, because what happens is it's a mini Weaver ultimate. So we have Lion here. Lion casts Finger of Death, and then I use Time Walk. I regain all of that health. So basically any health that I've lost in the last 2 seconds gets negated. It's that mini Weaver ult like I talked about. and I regain it. So this is very good. Obviously, laning stage, if people try to burst you down or something like that, and then you're done, you just time walk away. It negates all of that damage. Later in the game, once you get a bunch of items, you might be pretty hard to kill, so they try to burst you down, you get your BKB off or whatever, and then you time walk. Now you have full HP. It can be very, very annoying and hard to kill this hero with this ability and with his ability to just regain all of the health when you try to burst him down. So that's time walk. Pretty simple. Really good for split pushing, really good for getting on top of people, all of that kind of stuff. Really good for sustaining against the burst damage. Then, next, we're going to take a look at Time Dilation. This one's a very interesting spell, has been changed a bunch here and there, but basically it's pretty simple. You cast it in AoE, so you see I click it there, and it goes in an AoE, it hits everything in that AoE. And right now, this line, nothing really happened to the line. Line doesn't really care about this spell, but if we refresh, we take free spells off. We have Lion cast all of his abilities on the Void here, right? And then Void casts Time Dilation. Well, now look at this line. He's super slow. He can basically not escape. He's taking a little bit of damage. He can't run away. He can't really do anything. So this is a really, really good spell for stopping Blink Daggers, for getting on top of people, hitting people, controlling people without committing your Chronosphere. So it's kind of like this little spell that allows you to threaten Chrono, but still control people, still get on top of people, still kill people without committing this every single time. Good in the laning stage against like a lot of heroes that spell cast. So heroes like Lion, heroes like Timber, heroes that use a lot of spells and have a lot of spells that go on cooldown. This can be really, really good, because the other thing is, once you use this Time Dilation on them, their like cooldowns freeze. So if it's like a low cooldown spell, but they just used it and you use Time Dilation on them, well, one, they're slowed, but two, their spell will not come off cooldown until this debuff is gone. So it like basically pauses the time that it takes for the spell to come off cooldown. So even against something like Slark or whatever, if Slark uses his passive, uses his Q to like, get rid of a stun or something like that, and then you use this right after, he won't have his Q up for a very long time. It can be extremely, extremely annoying to heroes like that rely on their spells to, survive or kill or all those kinds of things. So that's Time Dilation. Pretty decent spell for getting on top of people and killing them without committing Chrono. Next, we have Time Lock. Time Lock is basically the carry spell for this hero. It's what allows him to do damage and scale into the late game by, hitting people and right-clicking. It's pretty simple. I'll just give you a demonstration here on this dummy target. As we see, every time I hit, there's a chance for me to bash. It's a small stun, and it does extra damage. So obviously, with attack speed, like I said before, this hero scales extremely well. We just buy a ton of moon shards here. We're like perma-bashing this dummy target. So obviously, that's really, really good. You're not going to buy 6 moon shards, though, so it's a little bit unrealistic. But later in the game, when you get 6 slotted, you can kind of perma-bash people sometimes. Even early in the game, sometimes I've had like Voids perma-bash me. It was really, really annoying. So that's just his really good spell. Damage and bash obviously can never be counted out with this Time Lock ability here. So pretty simple, and like I said, scales with attack speed, obviously. And then lastly, we have the ultimate, the Chronosphere, one of the best ultimates in the game, one of the most iconic spells in the game. Basically, it's an AoE, and it just makes this purple bubble, and you can run around in it really fast, and no one else can move. This Lion cannot move, cannot do anything, cannot cast abilities or anything like that. So we'll refresh, we'll give free spells here. I'll cast it again. Obviously, I can hit anybody in this Chrono that I want, and also the thing to note is that your allies can also cast abilities and hit people that are in the Chrono. So it's something where you want to kind of position it in a very perfect way, maybe with the enemies on the edge, so that even melee heroes, like if you're outside the Chrono and you're a melee hero and you're on the same team as Void, you can also hit. So just keep that in mind. Positioning of the Chrono is very important, and it also catches allies in the Chrono, and they cannot do anything. So we see these allied creeps, they're not moving, they're not attacking, they're not doing anything. So keep that in mind. You're also stunning allies if they are in that AoE. So like I said, keep that in mind, because that's very important to try to get as few allies in there as possible. Now, the last thing I'll say is when we cast it here, if you're an enemy and you're walking around and you walk into the Chrono, you will get stunned. So it's one of those things that for the duration it lasts there, and anything that touches it will be perma-stunned for the rest of the duration. So that's Chronosphere. It's pretty straightforward, pretty simple, pretty obvious. One of the best, most iconic ultimates in the game. And that's most of how Chrono works and those kinds of things. So you want to be able to obviously cast it on people, jump in, cast, kill people, make sure that you hopefully have some allies that can cast some spells in it as well, those kinds of things, and that's how you're going to be able to carry the game and kill people in Chrono. So that's Void. Those are his abilities. Now let's jump into a game and see how he's played. We're jumping in here to a replay of Ame playing Faceless Void, and I basically just wanted to show you the laning stage and kind of the strengths of Void, just how he's played in general. I think his lane is pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. You just want to be getting your last hits, obviously like any carry, but then using your abilities and your time to be aggressive at the correct times like any other carry. So we see there, he took the nuke, and he knows that he's going to be taking nukes from the Necro. So as soon as he takes the nuke, he saves his time walk to kind of purge the damage. And you want to be doing that as much as possible, but also making sure that, you're not like using it so much that you can put yourself, because once you commit it, you can put yourself in a vulnerable position if you're not too careful, and you may just die if you don't have time walk available. But now he sees he's level 2, he has time walk available again, and now he has bash. So this is the time for him to be extremely aggressive. And you see he's able to dodge the nuke again there. He's able to hopefully try to get another bash on the Necro, and it doesn't happen. Unfortunately for him, RNG does not play in his favor, but that could have easily been a kill if he got the second bash, or even like one bash. I don't even think he got one. I think he got one on the Monkey King and then didn't get one on the Necro. But like, you see how aggressive he was being when he had his time walk up, when he had that level 2 and Necro was still level 1. And so it's important things like that to know if you're going to play Void in the laning stage, because it's all about obviously getting farm, obviously surviving with your time walk and using it correctly, but then knowing when to get aggressive and when to use the potential damage of your time lock to harass the offlaner out, because it's all about survival, getting last hits, and then using that time walk. So like I said here, he's kind of playing more up in the face of the enemy, because he knows once that mobility spell is committed from Monkey, there's not much chase, and he has the ability to jump out, regain some health as soon as the Necro commits his burst. So I think that's just like the perfect example of how to play the laning stage in Void. He kind of has done everything there. He focused a little bit on farm. He got aggressive when he hit level 2, and he has his time lock. He's using his time walk effectively to, negate nuke damage and those kinds of things. He's just using the hero pretty much perfectly in the laning stage. And the rest of the lane is just an extension of all of that. Now, the only thing that he doesn't do right now yet is skill his time dilation, because sometimes this can be very, very good for certain lanes, but these heroes don't have a ton of spells to cast, so it's not the best. But if you have a hero like a Lion or something like I showed you before that's casting a ton of spells, time dilation can be really, really good for a value point in the lane, because it can do a lot of damage. It can, slow them and let you get on top of them and get even more damage with your time lock. So just keep that in mind. That is something that you're going to want to consider to skill early on in the lane, even though he's not necessarily doing it here for this specific lane. It's just something to consider. But other than that, that's pretty much how to play the lane. We saw him getting really, really aggressive, even 2v1, because he knew he was able to kill that Necro there and still survive because of his innate survivability. So that's how to play Void in the lane, and now we'll take a look at how to transition into the earlier part of the game. Next, I want to show you basically how to transition into the mid game with this hero, how you have to think about this hero. And first, you want to buy some kind of sustain farming item, usually Mask of Madness or, maybe Maelstrom, just depends on the build, depends on the patch. But then we see he hit level 7, his Invoker, his Shakiro come top to kill the offlane Necro in the duration of the Chrono. It's just a perfect combination. He probably wouldn't have been able to kill the Necro there by himself, but that's why it's great to pair this hero with other ranged heroes. Now, the other thing that we see is he gets his Mask of Madness, and he immediately goes on and mans up on the Nature's Prophet and even goes to chase the Juggernaut. Now, the main reason for this is because he knows that there's no burst damage or spells that these heroes are going to use that he can't escape with his Q, with his time walk. Now, he gets really, really greedy there and gets lucky and almost dies to the creeps. That's a little bit, that was a little bit risky. I would not advise trying to do something like that, but he figured there was so many creeps around, he probably wouldn't have died to the Lich ult. But in general, that was a really, really good play. You saw him use the Chrono when it was off of cooldown to secure a kill, coordinating with his team. Now, you're not always going to do that, but if there's a squishier hero and you do get Mask of Madness early on or something like that that can do damage, you can kill heroes almost by yourself in Chrono, even like level 7 or 8. So keep that in mind, especially because he is maxing time lock here. So keep that in mind. And the other thing is showing you just how, even especially early on in the game, when you have your time walk up and you have that survivability, you can really, really afford to man up on heroes like Nature's Prophet or Juggernaut or something like that when you know there's no stuns available to lock you down and burst you down. So that's the perfect example of how to think about this hero. And now that we see that his ult is on cooldown, he's going to farm a little bit, going to farm the jungle. Not bad. It's not that you never want to farm the triangle in this hero. It's not that you don't want to do like that Medusa style farming at all. It's just that you don't want to focus exclusively on doing that. So you still are able to do that. It's still something you can do early on in the game or when you don't have Chrono up, but it's just not something you want to focus on completely. You do want to get involved whenever you can. So that's Void transitioning to the early game. Now let's jump ahead a bit to the mid-late game. Now we didn't really jump ahead that far, only like a couple minutes or so, but I just wanted to show you this because this is the perfect example of exactly what I talked about. He looked to get more aggressive because Chrono was coming off cooldown, and then as soon as it's off cooldown, he looks to get involved with his team. Obviously, the enemy is kind of invading his triangle, so he kind of wants to protect it, but you see immediately he postures aggressively, he goes on the Necro to get a kill there, they get a kill on the Lich as well, and then he sees the Nature's Prophet and he just says, you know what, screw it, I'm just going to Chrono you and kill you full to zero in the Chrono with the help of my line. That's the perfect example of how to play Void. You saw he used the Chrono top, he farmed the triangle, then he went bottom to be a little bit more aggressive, looked to get involved, and now with his Chrono off cooldown again, right back to the triangle, right back to farming a little bit more passively because he doesn't have that ult. And this is the perfect example of how to play Void. Now, obviously, you're not going to always have, the best coordination with your team, but I will argue that, your team will probably play around you a little bit if the enemy is invading your triangle like that. So it's something that you can definitely do in your games. So this last clip here I wanted to show you because I kind of want to show you how to think about Void as he scales a little bit later into the game. It's 23 minutes, not super like late game, more like mid game kind of here. Yeah, he does have a BKB, he does have a couple items, but basically how to think about him when he has Chrono in a team fight. And his Chrono's coming up off cooldown. It's a little bit of an awkward situation here. They're trying to the enemy was doing Roche, now they're trying to bait it and trying to bait this weird team fight. But I want to show you what happens here. He is in Fog. They don't necessarily see him, and then he jumps for the perfect opportunity to Chrono two people, especially the carry and their monkey, which is the monkey has a very important role in the in team fights because of his team fight ultimate. So the reason why I wanted to show you that is because a lot of carries, like maybe Slark or other carries, want to jump on the backline to kill the backline, and that's not necessarily untrue of Void, but because of the Chrono and the nature of the spell that you can cast it, and kill carries, you can kill the enemy mid, you can kill these big cores in the duration of your Chrono. It is one of those things that you want to be looking to counter-initiate onto the carry. So you want to let, a few spells out come first, and we saw them bait the Aegis, we saw them bait the Roche there that was kind of half health. They were baiting in this fight, and then a few spells came out, the monkey casted stun, a couple things happened, and then from Fog, basically, the Void jumped in, Chrono 2, and killed the carry, basically full to zero in that Chrono with the help of his team. And so that's really, really important. That's the important way to think about Void, is you don't necessarily want to be jumping and wasting Chrono on the backline. You probably want to be killing the backline, by just manning up on them after you killed the carry, those kinds of things. So it's, in some ways, sometimes opposite of a lot of other carries where you want to, kill the backline first and then focus on the carry. Void kind of wants to focus on the carry first and then go for the supports afterwards, or at least focus on the most important hero first. And that's pretty much how you need to think about Void in the later game with the team fighting, with his ultimate. The other thing is, like I said, is you do want to counter-initiate. You don't want to be the first one in the fight. You kind of want to sit back and Fog, sit back, look at the situation, and then cast your ultimate and get your Chronosphere after you kind of diagnose when the best time to cast it would be. You don't want to be that first one in there, tanking all the spells, all those kinds of things. You just kind of want to... You kind of want to wait for the team fight to play out a little bit before you cast it, so some spells can come out, and then you can get the perfect Chrono off to kill, the ideal heroes. So that's pretty much how you play Void. He basically from here wins the game by just using the Aegis in the best way possible, chases down these heroes that are trying to split push, being really aggressive, getting all the towers on the map, and then they just take consistent fight after consistent fight, kind of scrappy fights here and there with the Void kind of using his spells effectively. But I think that Roche fight was really quintessential to show how to use Void in a really good, even team fight. So that is pretty much how you play Void. That's how you lane with him early. That's how you focus on him later in the game, or focus on playing him to transition later into the game by farming, but also using your ult off cooldown, building attack speed, building survivability, all those kinds of things, and then using your ultimate in key team fights kind of as a counter initiation spell on the key targets like the carry or the mid. So that's my Void guide. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it helps you play Void into the future. As always, like, comment, subscribe, those kinds of things if you enjoyed the video and you want to see more. Join the Discord if you haven't already. You can request replay reviews there or here on YouTube. I'll be doing the replay reviews every Friday on Twitch. From now on, the VODs should be saved there. So if you missed yours, it's probably there from this last Friday. I did like 5 or 6 last Friday. And as always, if you want coaching, my Patreon's below. For coaching, you can also just support me there if you want to support me and see more of this. And as always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.